Bayern are world champions. Ziyech wanted by Serie A giants. Manchester United draw up four-man shortlist, a transfer roundup, and today's Friday feels all coming up in the next few minutes. As I'm your host, Matt Froelich, you are the OneFootballers, and this is the Daily News. So first up, Bayern Munich are officially world champions, but not only that, they have also won every single trophy available to them in the last 12 months. That is an incredible 6 trophies, matching Barcelona's efforts back in 2009 under Pep Guardiola. The Bundesliga, done. DFB Pokal, the Champions League, the German Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and now finally the Club World Championship after a 1-0 victory over Mexican side Tigres. They did not have it all their way, although it was kind of obvious that Bayern Munich were going to win as they had more of the clear-cut chances, and eventually Benjamin Pavard's goal means that Bayern took home the title. What a year, by the way, for Hansi Flick. And I saw a few people after Bayern's not dodgy run, but certainly a little stumble quite recently. People were saying Flick's not up to it, Bayern could look for a new manager, this, that and the other. The guy now has more trophies than he does defeats as Bayern manager. 6 trophies, 5 defeats, that is insane. This is kind of like what Zidane did when he came into Real Madrid. It just became like an ultimate managing god straight away. I know that Flick's been working behind the scenes, especially with the German team as well that won the World Cup 2014. You've got to give him so much credit for stepping up into one of his first managerial jobs, certainly his first team job in a long time. And yeah, he's taken Bayern Munich to brand new heights. Astonishing and really good given the fact that Thomas Müller was actually sent home after testing positive for coronavirus. Moving on though, and to Thomas Tuchel and Hakim Ziyech in their relationship, which could mean that Ziyech leaves the club after just one season. Of course, this is just reports coming out of Italy at the moment, but both AC Milan and Juventus are monitoring his situation at the club. When Ziyech came in, he was talking about how he was injured and then got injured again, and recently he has been saying that it's been very annoying and very difficult for him to really get life started at Chelsea. Of course, the Chelsea he joined is now a completely different one because Frank Lampard has been sacked. Under Thomas Tuchel, Ziyech started the first game and then since then hasn't featured apart from the FA Cup last night, a game which Chelsea just managed to win against Barnsley. This doesn't exactly spell good things for the future. I actually think one of the problems Lampard has is he was just unable to find a consistent first team, but a consistent first team that played well together, that made everybody happy, that rewarded the players that he'd had the season before in his first season, Lampard, and then also made sure that the big money signings they bought in didn't go to waste. For example, Lampard, if you started with, I don't know, in his attacking midfield, for example, Hudson-Odoi, a very good youngster. Lampard likes giving chances to youngsters. Mason Mount, who's brilliant, one of Chelsea's best players this season, and Christian Pulisic, for example. He'd then be asked the question, why is Werner on the bench? Why is Havertz? Why is Ziyech on the bench? It was so difficult to make everybody happy. I actually think it eventually led to his downfall because he just could not pick the right team. As I said, Tuchel's come in, seems to be able to pick teams without the pressure because he didn't sign any of those players. He don't owe any of the academy youngsters anything, so he can go and just pick players amongst who he thinks is the best for that situation. And it looks like Hakim Ziyech may not be in his direct line of sight. Who knows, of course, the Moroccan can turn things around, but if he doesn't, there is one positive, and I've struggled for this, Chelsea fans, there is one positive that I can find. Because he was only signed from Ajax for, I think, around 25 million euros, maybe 25 million pounds, it's quite reasonable to expect that Chelsea can make that money back and maybe even sell Ziyech, especially if the likes of Juve and AC are interested, for a little bit more money. Like Chelsea, it's not like, I don't know, they were sending Havertz a year later and they had to take a cut on the ridiculous money they paid for him. They signed Ziyech for reasonably cheap in today's market and they'll definitely be able to get their money back big if they decide to let him go. Of course, both Juventus and AC Milan are in the top 4 in Serie A, and it looks like they'll be easily able to guarantee Champions League football next season. As for Chelsea, they're only 1 point off 4th, which is Liverpool, but the Premier League seems to be a little bit more competitive, especially for those top 4 spots, so maybe Champions League football at Chelsea isn't exactly guaranteed. That could hold a big bit of a difference, but wherever he goes, if Ziyech plays, you know there's a quality player. Moving on then into some more transfer news, as Manchester United have lined up a 4-man shortlist for centre-back. Now, of course, there are some realistic ones here, some slightly unrealistic ones, so let's talk through them. The first one is Dayot Upamecano, because every single team in world football that needs a centre-back is looking at him, mainly because he has a £38 million release clause, and, well, everybody wants to sign such a good defender for so cheap. The problem is, Bayern Munich look definite to make his signing a permanent one in the summer, and well, it's kind of hard to fight off Bayern Munich, especially when they're buying from another Bundesliga team, so Manchester United may have to take a step back. The other player there is also a Leipzig defender, and it's Ibrahim Kounde. Might cost a little bit more than Upamecano, but Bayern Munich aren't in that race, so it makes things a little bit easier. Having said that, Chelsea and Liverpool are supposed to be in that race, so again, things may be a little bit tougher. There are two more though, so don't worry, Manchester United fans. The first one could be an insane signing of Jules Kounde. Now, we all saw his goal against Barcelona. That is not the first time that he's been an outstanding player for Sevilla. Since joining, I think, a year and a half ago, at the beginning of the 2019 season, he's been brilliant, striking up a brilliant partnership in defence with Diego Carlos, and on top of this, helped him to the Europa League trophy last season. Definitely an unreal defender for the future, like France needed any more good centre-backs. Anyway, he's on the list, and apparently upwards of 50 million is going to see him able to leave Sevilla. And if they don't want to spend that, well, they could move to Rafa Varane, who will be 50 million bang on. So they might as well spend a few more for Kounde. But anyway, as for Rafael Varane, apparently 50 million could tempt him out of Real Madrid because he's only got 18 months left on his contract. But according to some reports, United are pretty certain that he will extend his stay at Real Madrid. So out of all of those, Upamecano is the cheapest but the most difficult to get. Kounde, it looks like it might be a bit of a struggle to get him. I feel like there's a lot of other options. They may end up paying over the odds. Jules Kounde, for me, looks like the best option. I think they can get him. I think they can tempt him. I think it's going to be big money for a quality player. And Rafael Varane, I'm not so sure is going to be leaving the club. But Manchester United fans, you guys, let me know down below who would be the best signing and why. So next up then, a quick roundup of the rest of the day's transfer news that you might have missed. And actually, talking of Jules Kounde, in a completely different transfer rumour, apparently PSG are interested in bringing him to the club as well, so that's another one for United to contend with. Elsewhere, Borussia Dortmund want to bring in Florian Neuhaus from Borussia Mönchengladbach. There's also Ricky Puig, who is apparently close to a loan deal from Barcelona to Arsenal, but they couldn't quite get Ronald Koeman and co to let him leave the club, so they went for Odegaard instead. And Mino Raiola, agent of Paul Pogba, has said he'll be working quietly in the summer on Paul Pogba's transfer and has refused to rule out a return to Serie A. Finally then, we come to this week's Friday Feels. Of course you guys know what it is. Leave your predictions down below. We'll read out some of the correct ones on Monday. But this week, I've realised I always go for like the top teams in the big league. So I'm going to try shed some light on some other games around Europe, completely random from a few of the smaller leagues. First off, in the Portuguese Premier League, I'm going for a 2-2 draw between Santa Clara and Braga. In the English Championship, that's the second division for those of you that don't know, I think Watford are going to sneak a 1-0 home victory against Bristol City. And lastly but not least, in the Turkish Super League, by the way, there's an outrageous title fight going on. Rivals Galatasaray, Fenerbahce and Besiktas are all joint top on 48 points. And this weekend, I think Galatasaray are going to steal a 4-1 home victory against Kasimpasa. Probably said that wrong, but let me know in the comments. Anyway, that is all from me for today. Make sure you let me know your thoughts down below and your Emoji Mondays. Click here to check out everything else we've got going on OneFootball. And until next time, I will see you guys later.